Alright, and hello everybody, I'm the Sweeper27 and welcome to another Dokkan battle video. Now this video is for my global players. So coming up there's going to be only a few banners that JP has gotten that we have not. Now there's part 2 LR that's going to be happening more likely than not over on the JP side of things. It may be an LR Kefla, it may be an LR just base Goku Black, it may be Goku Black, Rose, and Zamasu unit. It could be a lot of things. I'm kind of hoping that it's going to be a Golden Frieza that's also on Super Bosses. That way we can get a buff to Goku Black and First Form Frieza, who is currently on the global version of the game. That's the DFE celebration that we're in right now. But, so we are missing just a few. So this video is going to be going over characters that we can look forward to. Who would I recommend summoning for? And this video is a little bit more than just who would I recommend summoning for. This video is actually more so about banners, okay? So, obviously, if the best unit in the game, if it drops on a banner, obviously that makes it have a lot of value. But if it was like 9 featured units, 8 featured units, and they're all trash, terrible side banner unit, terrible this, terrible that, or whatever, this video is a more all-encompassing sort of video, as opposed to just like, this character is objectively better than this character is objectively better than this character. We're going to be taking everything into account when we are discussing this video. So we do have a lot that we got to discuss. There's going to be a lot of different things we have to go over, so let's go ahead and start off with my last place pick for what I would recommend summoning for. My display is all sorts of scuffed up. There we go. So, Ginyu. Ginyu is the unit I would recommend summoning for probably the least out of all of them. Now, Ginyu, he is kind of that guy. He gives incredible amount of support. He's just a phenomenal unit. He can give 2-turn support. He can stack offensively and defensively. He's one of these characters who does just a ton of things. His active skill is really, really good. But he does have 2 problems. First of all is that he's kind of stuck on the Special Pose team, which isn't a problem because Special Pose is very good. We're going to be getting into that in just one moment. The other downside is kind of his banner. Looking at it, there is not a single unit that is like good, I would say. Like this guy, his EZA is trash, your EZA is trash, your EZA is trash. You're trash, I think. I don't think you're quite good enough. You're trash. These two are like barely runnable. Like you are just a really good dodging unit, and you're a unit who just has guard, and you have like a lot of debuffs and stuff. So I don't know necessarily. I mean, debuffs are good and everything, but I don't know. Just like looking forward to like what we come to expect. These guys will not be able to tank 3 million supers, and even their debuff. Like I don't think their debuff is doing anything against like Kid Buu or whatever. These guys I'm actually pretty high on. I don't think that they're as good as some people gas them up to be, but I actually do quite like Ribrianne's LR, just because it is a giant form. They does create a lot of orbs, so if you have a character who's orb hungry, it'll never be a problem. The only problem is she's kind of orb hungry herself, and she can't go into slot 1, which is never too good. These guys, they're fine. They're just like a slot 3 unit who gets guard and damage reduction and slot 3. I don't think they have any support or anything. But yeah, again, Ginyu, he is that guy himself, but he cannot just work on any team. So let's go ahead real quick. Translate this page. Whoops, actually no, we're not even on his LR page. There we go. Perfect. So he is doing a lot of stuff, as you can see here. Like he's giving Special Pose support. He's giving 2-turn support. He gets damage reduction before he attacks or everything. He's doing a lot of stuff, and he is on quite a few categories. Planet Namek Saga. Why did it translate Planet Namek Saga and nothing else? I can't do that. Well, let's click on them and see if I can figure it out. That is Joined Forces. Alright. So he's on Planet Namek, Joined Forces. This is Ginyu Force. Whoops, that is a link. Wait, Ginyu Force isn't a link. What is this? This is... No, it is Ginyu Force. What am I talking about? The free-to-play Ginyu Force is a team. I'm just all over the place. Warriors of the Universe. That's Space Traveling Warriors. Dragon Ball Seekers. This will be Terrifying Conquerors and Special Pose. So yeah, he's on a lot of teams and he's doing a lot of stuff, but Special Pose is the only category you can run this guy on. I guess you can also run him on Ginyu Force, but that's kind of like an all-encompassing thing. That's kind of like a little bit of a cop-out answer. He does actually get to use his active skill on turn 3, which is much earlier than if you're just running him on Special Pose, but you need a full Ginyu Force team. So yeah, Ginyu is good. but you can only really summon for him if you have a really good special pose team, which is actually going to be the next thing we are going to discuss, which is God Topo. Now, assuming the banner stays exactly the same, there's only one unit that has value, okay? You could argue there's 3 units. You could maybe argue 4. But I'm not really too high on any of these guys. This guy's been power crept for a year. I know a lot of people like big number go burr, a lot of attacks, but this guy, he's not good enough. This is a fine enough slot 1 option on teams like Artificial Lifeform, movie heroes, superheroes. You're able to run him. He's not nearly as tanky as people give him credit for. I've seen this guy get absolutely murdered, but there are a couple of other units who do link very well with him, and he is a superhero's character, so he does get like a ludicrous amount of support. So I can't really underestimate him too much. Now, Kale's a unit that I'm much higher on than a lot of people. I have run her several times in like the Kid Buu Red Zone. She's really fun, and just Universe 6 as of a whole, after the Goku Black celebration, it's actually really powerful because you have Kefla, you have STR Kaba, you have Tech Caulifla, you have Tech Kale, I'm saying all the wrong names. You have Tech Caulifla, you have STR Kale. All these units who can do just a lot of things. That's like a team that can do so many variety of things. You have Boda Magetta as well. You have Int Hit. You have Vados. Just a billion options. I am actually a lot higher on this character. She is really good. I do have mine rainbowed, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but she's very fun. Now, these guys are actually pretty decent just because of all the massive amount of support that's going to be coming during the 9th anniversary in terms of like Tournament of Power. Like the Easy A's, we're going to be looking forward to MUI Goku, Evolution Blue Vegeta. We're going to have the Blue Boys, all of whom are top 10 LRs in the game and directly buff this character. So these guys are actually much more relevant than they were before the 9th anniversary, which is kind of crazy to think about. With their 2-turn support, when they do their super attack with a Goku on the rotation, they get their orbs and or whatever. They're actually pretty good. Then we have the savior of the game, Cataplasm. Enough said about him. And then Topo. Topo is one of these characters who the community, I feel like, can't make up a common consensus of. I think he is really good. His base form is just kind of like fine. Like, he's not like a god of the game in this state, but like he's not really going to be taking damage. He links really well with a lot of other special pose characters. He is the special pose leader that I was talking about that like Topo or Ginyu really needs. He does a really good job at pretty much everything that he does. Again, he's just fine enough in this form. He's like good. He's not really competing with characters like Big Bang Vegeta, in my opinion, in this state, Majin Buu, SSJ3, Angel Goku, but then he has this nasty as fuck transformation, alright, where he gets 80% damage reduction, but he loses 8% each time he gets hit, up to 60. So at the bare minimum, he's going to have 20% damage reduction, which, that plus guard in of itself is not terrible. There were plenty of other characters who just have, like, guard or whatever, so having that, being able to keep a little bit of his damage reduction is fine. You want to be saving this for the end of the fight most of the time anyway, but he just gets a ludicrous amount of stats. And the crazy thing is he does a lot. So on his transformation turn, he has a guaranteed beam nullification. After that, it's become a 50% chance. After he launches his active skill, he gets guaranteed crits for the rest of battle. Again, it's just ludicrous what this guy is able to do. Ludicrous. He's rainbow orb changing as well, which is nice. That buffs him. That can help just out the entire rotation as a whole. Now, there is one thing about him that is a bit of a bummer. So Special Pose has a lot of very top tier characters, one of whom we're actually going to get to later on the team, and he directly hurts them because he transforms Int Key Spheres into Rainbow specifically. It's not a random type. It will always be your Int Key Spheres, which can, again, hurt some units on the team, but as a whole, it's going to be a massive benefit. But I wouldn't really recommend summoning for Topo. Because again, Topo, he's the god. Special Pose is, again, one of the best teams that's coming into the game. But like, you're bad. You are debatably good. I think you are bad. I'm a fan of you, but like, if someone said you're bad, I'm not going to like really cry about it. Again, debatable, but I would say you're passable and then just like trash. So there's one god of the game, and then there's 2 to 3 arguables, and then everything else is trash. Wouldn't really recommend doing it on this banner. Now, there is one thing that may change, because Global actually had you return during Golden Week. So there's a chance we would get some other unit here, but I really don't think so. I mean, because we also did have Android 21 as well, so I don't know, there's stuff in the air. I'm going into making this video assuming that all the banners are going to look exactly the same, which with the sync happening may or may not even be plausible, but you never know. Up next, we're actually getting into our anniversary stuff, and I know I'm kind of just shitting on special pose in the moment, but we have the LR Gammas. Now, they are a character who I'm extremely fond of. I really am. I actually like think these guys are not necessarily slept on, but I feel like people don't gas them up as much as they should. But like, no one really downplays them either. You know what I mean? Like, yes, they are the worst of the 9th anniversary LRs. I don't really think there's a debate there. But not enough people really like talk about like the support that they have or like the explosive amount of damage that they're able to do once you get into the Gamma 1 state. The problem is that this is a Carnival banner. So Carnivals, if you don't know, there are more featured units, obviously, which immediately starts showing it's not good. Trash in this meta, trash in this meta. So immediately, there's how many units? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 featured units, okay? And 5 of them are already horrendous, all right? Not good. This guy never had his time to shine. You are just, I'm sorry, you just do big damage. That's literally all you do. And then you have a couple of utility characters once you get up here. Bulma is still very, very good, all right? She gives a massive amount of support. She rainbow orb changes. Her active skill turn is insane. She is a weapon type super if you really care about getting that mission complete. She is good. She is still good. Please do not act like Bulma is trash anymore. It's once we get to these 3 Carnival units specifically, just Carnivals, there aren't enough of them, and most of them haven't really aged too gracefully. Birdcoo is a character who absolutely has to revive. Otherwise, he is miserable. Because he's just a guard unit who stacks. That's not very good in this meta. It's not. He does have an attack break on his active skill, which is, like, fine enough. But he's not really providing much to the team. Kai Goku, he could be good, but none of these events are really short enough for him to have, like, there's not a happy medium. Because he has to have an event short enough that he doesn't lose like, his guard, but goes on long enough that he's able to get enough stacks. Because even if you get a couple of stacks with this character plus his guard, he's not eating 3 million from Gogeta. That's not something that he feasibly can do. I would say that this guy is just incredibly dead. There's no point in running this character pretty much ever. Which really stinks to think about, because like this character is actually like a pretty fun substitution if you don't have like 23rd World Tournament Goku. And then, unfortunately, Future Gohan is another character who I think is just kind of like fallen off. He was designed for like the Dismal Future Red Zone and all those events where they were short. He had a really high amount of damage reduction early on. You got into his domain, and then like pretty much once you got to the domain turn, you won. Now it's like you get to the domain turn, and there's still 3, 4, 5, 6 turns after that. This character, he's not really providing much after you throw up the domain. I mean, there are some events where, like, the Dokkan territories that the enemies have, if you get to that late enough in a fight, I guess you could override it, but he's just really not providing a whole lot. Then we get to the Gammas. And the Gammas, again, are pretty crazy once they do their 3 attacks. Because after that, then they have their damage reduction. They're very tanky. But then their transformation, it's just when HP is 70% or low, or when 3 or more attacks have been performed. And then you go into, let's see, this right here, where you're able to charge up this standby attack. And this is just ludicrous with the stuff that you're able to do at this point. Like, it's so destructive. This attack is incredibly powerful. No crits, or no real high crits, I guess I should say. So that is a bit of a problem that most of the time, you're not going to get a crit on the finishing attack. And then even once you transform into just the Gamma 1 portion of the unit, he is still, like, really freaking good. He still has, like, his support. He is one of these characters, though, who needs specific types of orbs. Now, it is rather generous. You're able to get either Int, STR, or AGL, which is, you know, why he's an Int unit, because, you know, blue plus red, I almost said blue plus STR, equals purple. You know, it's a fun little thing that they did there. He is still really good. Is he the worst of the LRs? Yes. And does he have the worst banner of all the LR units? I would say so wholeheartedly. Bulma does kind of carry a lot, but like these, like the TURs are dead. I don't know what these guys are doing here. And it's very arguably debatable that these guys are even worth running at all. Like no utility, maybe a little bit. All right. Up next, we have Gogeta. Now, Gogeta is probably the second best unit we are going to be discussing today. Now, there is an argument between Broly being, like, much better than this character or whatever, and I'm not really going to argue one way or the other. Like, I personally think that, like, Broly has a better potential, But Gogeta, he's just going to be a little bit more consistent, and he gives a lot of like support to the whole team with like his Rainbow Orb changing and his recovery. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, so let's go ahead and look at this banner. And right away, I can already say it is miles better because characters on this banner are getting easy A's during this celebration. If we go back and look over here, these are characters like this was during the God Goku Sand Day. I don't remember when you easy A'd. You easy A'd during the Worldwide Download Celebration last year. So these are older easy A's, but looking forward into this, both of these characters are getting sub easy A's during this celebration. You are getting an easy A during the celebration, and it's really freaking good. You are getting an easy A during the celebration, and it is really freaking good. I mean, you're trash. You are a character who everybody hates, and rightfully so. But you do have utility, which like other characters can't really say. Like if we ever do get like another event where you have to do AoEs, for example, you are going to get some more viability that you haven't seen in a long time. Because you do just do a ridiculous amount of damage, and you do have probably the best AoE in the game for events outside of like World Tournament, because your AoE does take a long time. Now, I will say the options available here, I think, are worse than the options available here. I have really never been a fan of this character. Terrifying Conquerors is not in a good spot. Wicked Bloodline is not in a good spot. You are just a character whose sole purpose is to die. And we have much better revive characters, some of whom we'll actually see on a separate banner. So you really don't provide anything at all. This is a character who I feel like just never had a really good chance to shine. I am a fan of like what they are doing. Obviously, this is a character who's meant to go into slot 2, just stack up a bunch of attacks, have a really devastating active skill. They do get the 30% damage reduction to an enemy that gets hit by their 18 key, but at this point, that's just not enough. 30% damage reduction on a slot 2 unit who like really doesn't get a whole lot of defense, like you're not stacking defense on anything. It's a bit problematic, and you don't have like a really good linking partner who can go into slot 1. Like there really aren't too many good Gokus that I can think of off the top of my head who you would like want to run this guy on with like a Bonded Master and Disciple lineup. Same with like Piccolo. Like the best Piccolo unit in the game right now is Orange Piccolo, and Orange Piccolo has lost his slot 1 status. So I don't know how you would really run this guy. And then Sword of Hope's Sort of Cope, I should be calling him. I have never been a fan of this character. You can go back and look at all my videos. I run him in a ton of events. I fully acknowledge that I used him all the time. But even back then, I was like, I'm not a fan of this character. Having to do multiple super attacks just to get 10% damage reduction with a cap, I always thought was foolish. His standby, was really good. Probably is so really good. Probably still to this day, probably one of the better standbys in the game, just because the turn that you transform, I don't see this character dying. I don't think that's possible, not to mention the sheer mass amount of damage he does on his turn that he is transformed. Plus the Sword of Hope itself is incredibly damaging, but he's just not there. I haven't seen anybody even try really to do a showcase of him in like Supreme Battle Skeptical fights or any of the new red zones. Like I haven't seen someone use them against Kid Buu either, like even an easier red zone. So I don't really know what people would expect from this character. Now Gogeta. He is that guy. Again, I do think he's probably the second best unit that we are going to discuss today. He has a pretty mediocre base form. Like this base form, when I first reacted to these kits, I would say this is on par with like what Orange Piccolo is, right? Very good. Not necessarily meant for slot 1 anymore, but he is doing just a lot of things. He is pretty much, he is dodging in this state, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, right? No, it is an additional that he has in this state. I am wrong. He has guard. That's what it is. He has guard, and he's super effective against all types. Again, his base form is just passable. Once you get to turn 4 and you're able to transform, that's when things kind of become like a different story, because boom, this guy is stupid. All right. So for the first 4 turns that you transform with this guy, he's recovering 54% HP. That right there that's incredibly stupid. That is 54% HP recovery for 4 turns. If you're running 2 of this guy, 1 on each rotation, essentially you're getting a full heal every turn. Then his active skill, the little taunt thing that he does, he gets guaranteed dodge for 1 turn. All enemy attacks get targeted at this character. He gets extra chance to dodge and crit as you go along. He is just really freaking good. And he does also Rainbow Orb change, something that we can't underestimate. That means characters like God Goku, if you really want to run God Goku doesn't have to worry about running this guy and getting his 6 orbs, because he will never change physical orbs. I'm a huge fan of this character. I wouldn't kill you if you decided to summon for this banner just for him, you know what I mean? Because again, Gogeta, he is that guy. I don't think you're really foolish for summoning for any of the 9th anniversaries, but I would extremely recommend waiting to see what our number 1 is. I feel like if you're a fan of the community, you probably know what unit is going to be there, because not only is he the best character in the game by far, he has the best banner I think I have ever seen in this game's history. So, rounding up at number 2, we have Broly. Now, Broly's banner, looking at it, it's not too shabby, okay? So, this guy is EZA, he's a bit fraudulent. The 5th year anniversary, their LRs, their EZAs are actually still pretty good, and actually now are relevant, because there's really not any AoEs outside of the Gogeta event, but even in the Gogeta event, it's not guaranteed that there is going to be an AoE once you get to the blue form. These guys right here, they have an extremely potent EZA. They are very powerful. Not necessarily as powerful as some of the other Dokkan Fest LRs that we are going to be discussing, but like very, very good for what they do. They're massive debuffers. They launch a lot of attacks. They do just, they also debuff as well, which means that they're really good for a lot of these newer events. The LR guards have certainly fallen off, but seeing as in a year's time, these guys are going to be EZAing with the Super Saiyan 4s, which is the scariest thing I think I've ever said, because I'm not ready for these guys to EZA, because power creep is going to go through the roof with that. They are really good. I think they are a little bit inferior to the Super Saiyan 4s in terms of their kit. However, they are just on better teams, because, you know, Movie Heroes is always going to get more buffs, because right now one of the best characters in the game is on Movie Heroes. Cooler is a character who, like, I don't really know why we're still featuring you. I mean, I understand why, because Birdku is on the Gogeta side of things. But why? Why Cooler? Cooler, like, he's a character who I don't even think really is in the realm of EZA, because, like, Namek Goku would have to EZA, and, like, Fraud Form Frieza would have to before we get this EZA. So, I feel like if you got him, you were going to be disappointed. These guys are probably the best aging 8th anniversary LR that we got, just because their standby is really good. Now, granted, these are characters who can get caught extremely easily, but in terms of the amount of damage that they're doing, plus the teams that they have, like, you are able to run this guy on, like, the SSJ3 Angel Goku's team or whatever. Majin Buu Saga is incredibly powerful. Their standby is still probably one of the better in the game to this day. Not a shabby unit. Zamasu is still really good. He is probably the best tech villain. Actually, no, scratch that. No, because Big Bang, he's tech. This is the second best tech villain in the game. He has big bad bosses, which is huge. His domain is really good. Now, the problem with domain characters is that all the domains clash, but we are going to be getting an update with that at some point in the future. If you're a character, or if you're a person who summoned for Goku Black Rose, that is a buff for him. He has super bosses as well. He's probably one of the better super bosses characters just in the game. Too many people sleep on Zamasu. They slept on him during the Worldwide Download Celebration. They're sleeping on him now. Granted, he can't go into slot 1, but he's a really freaking good slot 2 or 3 option. He does also have debuffs built into his passive, which is never something that you want to sneeze at. This Frieza is actually a really good support unit for super bosses. The only problem is that super bosses kind of sucks. Enough said. Now, Broly. Broly is, again, his base form, right? It's just around, like, on par with, in my opinion, Orange Piccolo. Where it's like, it's fine. You don't really want to put him in a slot 1, but in slot 2 or 3, he's going to be doing really good damage. He's going to be doing decent tanking. I'd be surprised if you got caught after doing some super attacks or whatever. Now, Amatsu hates villains, because why can Gogeta transform on turn 4 and this guy is on turn 5? Really stupid. I always think that. I don't, there's genuinely no reason for this. But he does create a domain. Now, his domain lasts for 4 turns. It gives all allies 4 ki that are extreme class. Like, that's not terrible. And then it also has a field effect. So the active skill is this, but the field is 10% attack and defense to all extreme class allies and enemies. And if you're on Explosion of Rage or movie bosses, you get an extra 10% attack and defense, and all superclass allies and enemies take an extra 10% as well. So if you're running him on like a superclass team, or if you're running superclass characters, there's a little bit of a problem with that, because you make some of them look a little bit weaker. But that's really not like the hugest deal ever, because the best superclass characters who you'd want to run him on, they're going to be fine regardless. Like, you're going to be running Beast, Evolution Blue Vegeta, like these sorts of characters. Taking a little bit of extra damage on them is really not going to be too damaging. And then you get to this guy, and he has the potential to be the best character in the game with all of this. The turn when he's linked up, like this state of Broly linked with the previous stage of Broly, I really like the idea of that. In concept, the only problem is that Super Bosses isn't a team that can, like, reliably do that, you know? Like, the double Broly rotation You have this guy in slot 1, he takes no damage, he does 1,000,000,000 damage. Then the next Broly does the same thing. They're getting boosted by the domain. He is a character who isn't reliant on his domain either, so once the domain wears away, you're still in the full power form, as opposed to like what Rose does, where once his domain ends, he actually reverts back to his base form. Same with Zamasu, they just revert back, which is a little bit of a stupid decision, but I understand why it'd be kind of broken if you just permanently kept a character who took no damage. Maybe Rose could have stayed transformed, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, very powerful unit. The only problem is that he has like super bosses. Now, last year when we got Power of Wishes, we got a lot of Power of Wishes buffs. We are now halfway through this year. Yeah, exactly halfway through this year. And it really doesn't feel like it's the year of super bosses, you know? Like, yeah, we have like the Kefla Easy. She is incredibly powerful. Yeah, we have Rose and we have Broly. We haven't gotten anything else for super bosses this year. So, like, we introduced this brand new category, and we give it a headlining 9th anniversary LR who is really powerful, and it just kind of feels like it falls a little bit flat, unfortunately. But, again, pretty powerful. Again, the units on here don't really hold a candle to the next placement, but, like, they're not bad. You're not going to really complain if you get these guys, because they are just, like, 70% chance to dodge characters who have a chance to get 100% on their first transformation turn. They have pretty powerful-ish active skills. They're just nice to have. These guys are very good. Again, this is just prepping for their easy A. I guess you're just prepping for their easy A. These guys are actually runnable, actually runnable, actually runnable, actually runnable. And now lastly, this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Not only is he the best character in the game by far, in my opinion, his banner is stupid. All right, now let's go ahead and get this out of the way. These two are frauds. We don't even want to talk about this. Like, no, get them out of here. We're not even talking about them. These two are in contention for number 2 and number 3 in the game when it comes to just overall kits. I think it is kind of ludicrous that the power that's on this banner. So, most people would go number 1, number 2, number 3. I would argue Gogeta is slightly better than UI just because of all the utility he has, but again, I'm not going to really fight you too much. You can move any character up or down like 1 or 2 spots, and I won't complain most of the time. You have the Super Saiyan 4s, again, just prepping for their easy A. If you're a JP player or a global player, come next January, these guys are easy A. And they're going to utterly destroy the game. Again, I think their kit is slightly more powerful than the gods. But they are more reliant on, like, Super Saiyan 4 characters like Sand Roar, stuff like that. Less common links. And since, like, GT has ended, we're never going to get, like, a new arc of GT, you know what I mean? That's why the gods will age much more gracefully, because not only are they a dodge character, they are just a movie hero. We're always going to get new movies. We're always going to get this, that, or the other. There's just more possible options out there as opposed to what GT has, which GT, you know, again, its run is over. These guys are bad. They're interesting, though, like their morale boost. Again, they do a lot of stuff. It's just they were, like, undertuned when they came out, in my opinion, and doesn't really translate too well over today. Now, these guys, I'm still a huge fan of the GT Duo. They're one of my favorite units that has ever dropped, but being realistic, I don't know how they're going to hold up in the 9th anniversary stuff, because mainly their whole gimmick is get a bunch of stacks, revive, nuke whatever enemy is in front of you. Now, there are better revive characters now, 2 of whom are on this banner, but on top of that, having 50% damage reduction necessarily isn't enough these days. We have characters who have 50% damage reduction and guard and still take 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 plus damage on some of these super attacks after super attacking. Now, they do get a lot of defense on their super attack. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they raise attack on their super attack effect, and then they greatly raise defense for 1 turn as well. So they do actually get more defense than offense, I believe. I could be wrong. But nevertheless, I don't necessarily know if these guys are going to be able to tank any, like, big boss supers, but they should be fine against normal still. You're just losing out on a big part of their versatility with that revive. But again, they never needed the revive to be good. I don't think that they would need the revive to be good now, but it would certainly be scary running them again, especially since they need like some of these more obscure GT links than other characters on this list would. This guy's a fraud. I was never a fan of this character. I'm also really mad because in my summoning video for Goku Black Rose, I actually got this character and I went complete auto mode and I spent 500 red coins on a unit that I got, so I now have him at 69%, but I'm just not a fan of him. But at the very least, I can say his leader skill will always be good. It will always, always, always be good. You never have to like worry about having a bad leader skill for superclass characters. I mean, they are a dodging unit. They do have guard. they're like VB, if you're actually able to get into VB is pretty powerful, I would argue. I don't think he's really like messing with like the big boys like I've seen some people say, but like he's fine enough. It's just, it's not guaranteed that he's going to be good, because what happens when you get to turn 5, you have too much HP and then they just die because they don't dodge, or because they're not guarding or whatever. It's just a problematic thing, but I understand that's not a problem for everyone. RNG, it fluctuates. Some people like may never fraud this character, may never fraud them out. Like I personally, Int Gotenks is a character who loves to fraud me. That little shit. Every opportunity he gets, he's going to be eating a super when he has dodge. That's just his favorite thing to do. Kefla, who has less dodge than him, almost never dies. Like genuinely, I have so many videos, you can go back and look at everything. It doesn't make sense. It shouldn't make sense, but it happens. And that's just because it ultimately boils down to luck. There's nothing I can change. My Gotenks should statistically do better. He has more dodge built into his passive, and he has actual better dodge equips. My Kefla is 69%. I don't know what her dodge is off the top of my head, but I know with 6 orbs, she only has a 50% chance, right? Gotenks is 50%, and then after he dodges once, he gets extra dodge for the rest of the turn. And I just have footage of him dying over and over again. It just boils down to RNG. So, then, other Sidebanner units, actually pretty good. They're just a dodging support unit. Nothing to really complain about there. And then, we have the God. The GOAT. The Mistake. This character will never get power crept. As long as this character gets hit one time, that is his restriction, in case you were wondering. He has to get hit one time, and he is completely unstoppable. He destroys the entire game. He does so much damage. He has the team protection ability right here, which gives him 24 ki, extra defense, and then all enemies must hit him. Oh yeah, and by the way, he guaranteed crits for the turn. I didn't even know that. He didn't need that. But yeah, by far, I've been saying this for months. Everyone has been saying this. Global players, I beg you, save for Beast Gohan. You will not regret it. I've heard some people say like, yeah, it only matters to summon for Beast if you like want to win the game. And it's like, yes. And, you know, like, I'm not even as big of a Beast Gohan fan as some of these like other units. Don't get me wrong, this is incredibly hype, right? But like, I'm a big Vegeta fan. I'm a big Vegito fan, Super Saiyan Vegeta specifically. I'm a big fan of a lot of other moments. Now, do I recognize that Beast is incredibly hype? Yeah, absolutely. But would I say he's like the most hype moment in Dragon Ball, or even one of my favorite moments? No. But like, I gotta recognize that if you want to like play the game and have fun, yeah, because you know what you can do with this guy in your team? You can bring much more obscure and weaker characters. Because you can bring out some unit, I guarantee you can bring out the Super Saiyan 2, physical, Super Saiyan 2 Goku who goes into SSJ 3, and you could make it work. Now, granted, he would be on that later skill, because I think he's on Miraculous Awakening. I guess I don't actually know at the top of my head. He isn't on Miraculous Awakening. Oh, wow. But you know what I mean? Like, look at, like, some of these more rare and obscure characters. You just because Beast is on the team, you could make some of these characters work. And I just think that's really cool. He's a fun unit. He just defends the team. He is that guy. And I would recommend summoning for him above anything else. His banner is incredibly stupid. Again, he has the three best units of the game potentially are on this. And this guy in a year's time, or I guess 6 months' time, is going to be even better than probably all of them combined. So, really good side banner unit. A unit who has some, like, really decent utility, but it just really ultimately boils down to your luck. A character who will probably get an interesting EZA in a year from now. And then a unit who's just, like, fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm, like, saying future-proof, this is the worst unit probably on the team. I mean, we're not talking about these two. These guys are trash, but just ignore them. They don't... Just push them away. I mean, there is a chance to get them, but let's be real. This top line is so stacked. No. Definitely 100% save for Beast. Now, is it possible that we get a conjoined Part 2 LR that's going to be a Kefla unit who can go to slot 1, links perfectly well with the EZA Kefla, and it's the best unit on the entire game, and is somehow 20 times better than Beast Gohan? It's possible. I won't hold you. That is something that could theoretically happen. But with all the information that we have available to us right now, I don't care how many stones you have. I don't care if you have 3,000 or I don't care if you have 5. If you're on global, please save for Beast. He should come during the 3rd week of July. So that is like 7 weeks from now as of the time of recording. I'm recording this at 4:23 a.m. on the 6th of June. Just save up until then. I beg you. I beg you. I hope no one summoned for first form Frieza. I'm hoping. We're probably going to be getting Ginyu in, not this week, but the middle of next week, if I had to guess. Or we're going to get the joined celebration. I really do hope, because it would be kind of cool if we did get a joined celebration. That way, that's one less thing Global has to catch up on for the sync. But the sync is already super janky as it is. So, I mean, we can have a little bit more jank if it means that in August, during the Worldwide Download Celebration, we're just permanently synced from there on out. But yeah, that is going to be all for this time, guys. I've been the Sweeper27. I'm a variety Twitch streamer and an up-and-coming YouTuber trying to make it big in the world. I have a Twitter, a Twitch, a TikTok, and a YouTube, the links of which can all be found in the description of this video. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, share me around, and leave me a comment, positive, negative, or indifferent. I would love just any sort of interaction I can get from you guys. But yeah, that's going to be all for now. So as always, I've been the Sweeper27, and I am signing off.